Good morning, friends. God is able to turn our can't into can. We're going to look at an example of that in just a moment. So on Sunday, we started a new series called Can. And we looked at the famous story of David taking on Goliath. And there's one important principle that we looked at on Sunday. It's so important in our battles of faith, and it's this: who we focus on makes all the difference. So we saw it with the Israelites. The soldiers of Israel and Saul were focused on Goliath. They were focused on the giants. And as a result, as they just looked at him and heard him for 40 days, they were paralyzed with fear. David, on the other hand, was focused on the Lord God. From the time he arrived at the front line until he stepped out on the battlefield against Goliath, his focus was on the Lord. God seemed to get bigger and bigger in his gaze the closer he got to Goliath. He looked to the Lord to deliver Goliath into his hands and to give him victory. If you'd like to watch that message, you can just have a look at the video description below to click on a link to do that. All right, now, what we're doing on these Wednesdays is we're going to look at something in the gospel accounts that links to the principle, the message that we looked at the Sunday before. And there is an amazing story which brilliantly illustrates this very point. And I'll give you a clue, all right? We can't walk on water. Not so? In the natural, you and I can't walk. We can swim, but we can't walk on water. But of course, Jesus and then Peter walked on water. So let's have a look at that story. And it follows on after Jesus had fed the crowd of 5,000 with 5 loaves and 2 fishes. All right. And what he did is he sent the disciples on ahead of him. They went across over the Sea of Galilee whilst he dismissed the crowd and he prayed. Now, whilst the disciples were going over by boat, they ran into this squall, this storm. This wind was coming against them and they were going nowhere. And Jesus waited a little while. He only went out to them somewhere between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. in the morning. He walked out on the water. And let's pick up the story from Matthew chapter 14, verses 26 to 33. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. "It's a ghost," they said, and cried out in fear. But Jesus immediately said to them, "Take courage, it is I. Don't be afraid." "Lord, if it's you," Peter replied, "tell me to come to you on the water." "Come," he said. Then Peter got down out of the boat, walked on the water, and came towards Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, cried out, "Lord, save me." Immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. "You of little faith," he said, "why did you doubt?" And when they climbed into the boat, the wind died down. Then those who were in the boat worshipped him, saying, "Truly, you are the Son of God." Friends, this is such a simple, uncomplicated message. It really is this little principle, so clear, all right? Whilst Peter's eyes were on Jesus, whilst he was looking to Jesus in faith, he could do the impossible. Like Jesus, he could walk on water. But then we have those intriguing words in verse 30 that Peter saw the wind. Okay, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because you can't really see the wind, can you? But it's a great statement because it captures what happened with Peter. So perhaps he felt that howling wind in his face. Perhaps some of the spray of the water in his eyes. Maybe just the peripheral vision. He started to notice the waves just curling up around him. And Peter looked away from Jesus. He was distracted and he looked to the storm. He looked to the wind. And as he did so, as he took his eyes off Jesus, his doubt and his fear began to drag him down. He could no longer walk on water. Okay? Now, to his credit, Peter was quick to call out to Jesus, "Lord, save me." And immediately Jesus grabbed a hold of him. Now, picture this. Peter's busy going down. Okay, Jesus grabs a hold of him. What happened next? Have you ever pictured that? I've imagined. Okay, I think there are 2 main options. Either with Peter sort of under the water a little bit, Jesus just grabs him and then drags him back to the boat, okay, while he's still a bit in the water. Possible, but doesn't sound like Jesus, does it? So this is what I believe. This is what I think would have happened, okay? As Jesus grabbed hold of him, friends, he lifted Peter up. Lifted him like he would raise a lame or crippled man to his feet. He lifted Peter up so that Peter was standing on top of the water again. And perhaps, I know I can't prove it, but perhaps when Jesus gave that loving rebuke, "You have little faith, why did you doubt?" Perhaps he was standing face to face with Peter. Wow, I mean, that would have really added even more weight to his words. And then I see them walking back to the boat together. Jesus still holding his hand, still maybe with his arm around his disciple. Jesus, friends, did more that day. He didn't just rescue a man who was about to drown. He lifted Peter out of his fear and his doubt and put him again on a firm footing of faith in the one who can walk on water. All right? I believe that with all my heart. And the account ends with not only Peter, but all the disciples in the boat acknowledging, worshiping Jesus as the Son of God. All right? Perhaps today you find yourself facing one of life's storms. We all have them. I believe there are a number of you right now. There'll be some sort of storm raging around you. This is what I want to urge you today. I want to urge you, by the grace of God, keep your eyes fixed on Jesus. You might feel the howling wind in your face. There might be some of that water stinging your eyes. You might be tempted to look at those waves you see around you, but don't look at the storm. Keep your eyes fixed on Jesus. Keep your eyes on the one who can enable you, empower you, strengthen you to do all things, okay? But here's the thing too, friends, is that some of you might feel as if you're already going under. Some of you might feel like you're already well under the water. Perhaps as you've looked away from Jesus, as you've been focused on the storm around you, perhaps it feels like you've been dragged down by your doubts and your fears. Can I urge you, like Peter, don't waste another moment. Call out to Jesus. Wherever you are, look up to him right now. Call on his name. Decide right now that you will put your trust in him, that you will look to him to grab hold of you, because I believe, friends, that Jesus won't delay, that he will grab you, and by the power of his Spirit, he will lift you up. He will put you on that firm foundation of faith in the one who walks on water. So let's look to him today. I want to encourage you, even now, don't look at the storm around you. Put your eyes on Jesus. Fix your eyes on Jesus. And let's trust in the one who can enable us to do the things that are impossible even, who turns can't into can. Thank you so much for watching. God bless you.